Hello, people. Anybody? Is somebody there? Anybody that is there, welcome back. So, honestly, I've tried to do batch production and I was succeeding for a moment, but life happens. But nonetheless, I want to keep the recorder rolling until like September, where I take a break. Yes, until we have the season finale, as the popular podcasters would say. Yay. But yes, until then, we still have a lot to talk about. And remember that on the Whole Woman podcast, we're addressing the matters of the mind, the body, and soul so that we can bloom and learn to become whole. And I'm your hostess with the mostest, so Nika. So this is really for the ladies, but let's say you want to learn how to understand your lady better. What better way than to stay here and listen to this podcast? Duh. So yes, so let's get right into today's topic. And I just want to say that the topic for today, it is probably one of the most cliche common topics that every person on this land has ever spoken about. And that's the whole idea of love. And the title for today is We All Want Love or Attention. And before we even get into anything like the nitty gritty, let's first and foremost talk about what is love. For me, love, this high intensive emotion that one feels, it is subjective. The definition of love is subjective. Everyone has their own spin, their own take on love. Personally, besides it being an emotion, I think it's hard to be defined. But at the same time, I think that when you're in love, you know that you're in love. Personally, for me, I believe that once you love a person, you never stop loving them. Even if the status of one's relationship changes, I think that love is not something that fades. And that's just my opinion because remember, as I stated, love is subjective. Of course, there are certain things in life that happen and you have to say, why? This is not going to work out or this is just not for me. But I don't believe that it's something that evaporates over time. And if it does evaporate, then possibly you need to just look into yourself and say, maybe I was not in love. But that's just my opinion. That's even not even the basis of where the this episode is going to go. But that's just my take on it, which is somewhat controversial because another thing about love that I beg to differ. People are always saying that there are different kinds of loves. I don't believe in that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, people. I believe that there's different type of relationships and there's different bonds, but I just believe that love is love. Like it's spelled one way, it's just love. And the reason why I say that is because even in cases where people are gonna be like, oh, you can't love your mother the way how you love your wife. I mean, yeah, I agree with that, but it's still just love because if in the same breath, persons always say that the strongest love you can ever experience is a mother's love. If you were to put a husband and you said to him, choose between your mother, a good mother that is, and choose between your wife, which is fairly good as well, best believe they're not going to choose the mother, they're going to choose the wife. So I believe that when it comes on to love, the whole idea of love, it is strengthened through bonds and relationships. And the reason why I don't believe that there's different forms of love, it's because in cases where people are like, oh, I love you more than she, because like I just don't believe in that. I believe having a relationship is different than like loving someone. If you get it's similar to how you would have friends, like you love your friends, but you would be like, oh, the bond that I have with you is stronger than the bond that I have with, but overall you love your friend. And that's just my take. Beg I people can differ, it's fine. That's just my opinion. It's an opinion I've shared before and it blew up in my face, but whatever. Because oftentimes people who are always like, it's different forms of love, their love life is not giving what it's supposed to give. But it's fine. That's not even the point. So that's just my perspective. Love, how to define love, it is subjective. People look at love differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I just want to say, speaking about people, I want to talk about single people versus married people. So it's oftentimes said that when you're single, you are missing out, or more so, you're dying to experience love, you're dying to get into a relationship. And then married people, like I oftentimes feel as if there's a divide between who's single and who's married. single people are always being taunted, oh, you don't know what it is like to be married, or they are more so marriage life is not easy, but in the same breath they're always like, I encourage you to find someone. I know it must be hard with with the physicalities, the finances, blah blah blah. Oftentimes single people are thought to be bored or not living life, not really experiencing the joys of life. And in the same breath, single people can always attack the married couples and be like, they the single people in turn can say, marriage is a sham. It might look good on the outside, but really and truly comes with complications. Oftentimes people are not happy, blah blah blah. So there's always just this divide as to who has it the better way or who has it the easier way. And it's even spoken about in the Bible. Like, when you're single, that's the time that you need to worship God. You have no work, not the time, not saying that you can't do so in marriage, because marriage is a ministry. Marriage is beautiful, but you don't have to worry about the things of the husband, the things of the wife. You're solely focusing on God. So both of them are highly beneficial. Marriages have broken many curses, have set many foundations, because there's two people working for a mutual good. And I mean the healthy marriages, not the toxic ones that are also prevalent nowadays. And there's many single persons as well who have, them best. They have done their best. So, with that being said, no, there is a divide. Who has it better? Personally, I think that when it comes on to either of those individuals, both of them can have the best of both worlds. When you're single, it's a time to capitalize upon yourself, to know your worth, to know what it is that you want, and to ensure that you are whole, not perfect, but whole. Like you've patched up the areas good enough, and even if they start to leak, you have the resources, you have the mental capacity, the emotional capacity to kind of just work on it. And with married persons now, like, based on the fact that you took such good care of yourself as a single individual, you're only going to add to the marriage that you enter into. And this is, as I said, it is not about perfection, but I've heard it so many times. Like, like people tend to jump into relationships with so many unresolved trauma, and it's oftentimes it's people who have that sense of awareness, who took the time out to really work upon themselves. And by working, I don't necessarily mean to get a car, to get a house, but sometimes life is more than just finances. Even though, to be honest, finance does play a huge part in marriages, but sometimes it's really the person who can say, hey, I know I have anger issues. Hey, as a result of me having anger issues, I overspend and I need to get my finances in place. Or marriage, things like that. Like, everything is sometimes interconnected. Like, you find one fault and you realize how it can influence so many other aspects of your life. So it's oftentimes when you're single and you're saying to yourself, boy, I need to work on this so that I can not only be beneficial to myself, but my partner in the future. So yeah, it's a win-win situation in both cases for me. But I also want to talk about the timeline that is laid out for specifically women. I feel like when it comes down to society, men don't necessarily experience the same pressure like women, in the sense that a man can literally go out there and be 18 years old and have a child and nobody bats an eye. A man can literally be in his 40s, and even though he probably gets a little, how should I say, a little, you're not bringing any youth, topics like that here and there. When he has it in his 30s or even 40s, he still gets the pat on the back. If a woman now does it, like if a woman has a teenage pregnancy or early pregnancy, they're gonna say you got pregnant young. If she has it older, it's still an issue. And I'm referencing the whole idea of timelines, not even in just getting attached, but with producing offsprings. And then even with the whole idea of relationships, I feel as if, even though men, of course, you'll approach men and be like, oh, no woman, why me just attack the power. You'll be like, you don't have any woman at the house, nobody to wash, to cook and clean for you. Like, they'll get those questions, but it's almost not the same as like a woman. They will literally be like, why, as a woman, you can't die alone. And in my opinion, like, when it comes down to the flesh, when it comes down to sexuality, I do think that males have a harder time, but it's oftentimes the females who are always being somewhat oppressed and be like, you know, see a time are up. Even though, to be honest, I'm going to be fair. Lots of females do think that way. Lots of females, by the time they reach 25, they say to themselves, I don't want to have a child. I don't want to have a child after 30. I want to get pregnant before so and so age. So it's, in a way, it's a common stigma that is shared with even females and males, that a female should get pregnant as best as possible, try to find a provider as best as possible. And I guess it has to do with history, with the past, when women were really and truly in the house, which honestly, people, I'm not the type of person to even debate about that, because if you want to work. If you want to stay at home, stay at home. I don't see the big deal. Like, if you have mutually come to an agreement with your partner that you want to be a housewife, girl. I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't know why people complain about that. I honestly do not. Like, it's your life, live your life. If you want to be a young independent girl, be a young independent girl, or even an older independent girl. Of course, I can see the benefits of both. Like, trust me, there's nothing greater than to know that you have your mother, like, with you, going through growing pains with you, or even being there to rely on. As well as, I understand, being independent. Like, nobody cannot speak to you. Nobody cannot hold a carrot over your head, whether it be your husband, your boyfriend. Like, I get it. It's beneficial in so many ways. But personally, for me, mind your business. Like, do what pleases you in that regard. So, yeah, so there are timelines set for women and for men when it comes on to marriages, when it comes on to having kids. And as a result, no, this is where the whole idea of attention, some of us genuinely, like, I honestly believe that in this life, if you really look, I don't know, I don't have a statistics, I don't have the data or whatever, but I know for a fact that many people would want to picture themselves having another half. Like, everybody wants to have their idea of a soulmate. Even if this person is flawed, everybody wants to know that there's somebody who can relate to them, somebody in that intimate sense. And even if they don't necessarily live with this person to the end of ages, they at least want to experience it for once in their life. So the desire for love, we all want love. You understand? Not necessarily for just having someone to wash, cook, and clean, having someone to lay down with, to roll over with, to have one, not me, almost going to say 1 million, not necessarily to have ten kids with, or a dozen, not necessarily for that matter, but just simply for the fact that I just feel like we're kindred spirits. Like, we always want to have that helpmate, or that person we can look to and be like, oh, I'm so blessed to have, like, it's natural. Not everybody wants it, but for majority of the time, like, it's a very common feeling. And as a result of wanting that, sometimes persons do allow themselves to be placed in situations, or they put themselves in situation where they settle for less, or they compromise for the sake of getting into a relationship, not ending up single, not having offsprings, and they negotiate. And even that too, nothing is wrong with that, because I understand that everyone looks at life differently. Some people will literally say, it doesn't matter what happened, I will never close my eyes and say to myself, I'm going to enter into a relationship with someone who is ideally not my type, someone whom I'm not attracted to. Well, you'll have someone who look back, like, they walk past you and they'll look back a little 3 times, just to ensure that they're doing the right thing, just to ensure that they're not passing on what could potentially be a good relationship. Because I've heard it many, many times before. People are like, oh, initially he was not my type. Initially she was not the type of person I would go for. And I'm like, okay, initials. And then, later on in the story, you hear them say that they eventually ended up together. They eventually developed a relationship, a healthy one at that. I personally, I don't know how I feel about that, because I always say to myself, I need to, of course, people, life, similar to whole life, is more than just about clothes and success. When it comes down to relationships, it's more than just about how a person looks. You need sustainability in so many aspects, and I don't even just mean money. You need to ensure that this person is emotionally mature. If you're a Christian, spiritually mature, spiritually grounded. Like, there's so many other essential factors that make and break a relationship. than just how they look or how tall they are. But there are some people who firmly just can't do it. They just can't close their eyes and say, "Boy, I'm going to give 5'3" John a chance." Probably the 5'3" John is somebody like me because I'm 5'1". I don't know. I'm not saying I would never do it, but it's just I like them tall people. I like them tall. But yes, but enough about me. Like there are some people who literally, they negotiate. And sometimes, as I stated, it works out for them. Sometimes they end up being miserable because what they had to do to actually find themselves in a position where they can say, "Oh, I'm married. Oh, I'm this." They might miss out on happiness. They might miss out on really and truly genuinity, and that affects them in the long run. Now, before we even talk about persons who look back with regret, there are some people who don't care at all. There are some women who literally just want to ensure that the attention is focused upon them. They have stability in terms of their finances. They don't have to worry about bills. And for many a times, you've heard it even growing up, that it's best for you to marry a man who loves you more than you love him. And I actually heard I knew this weird person once who was like, the woman should love the woman should love the man more. I've never heard that in my life, but that was his take. Big up to you. He was like, the woman should love the man more. And when he said it, it sounded so ew. And I was saying to myself, why are we even in a place in life where we're thinking about who should love who more? Like, why do we compare love in the sense that, why is it that you're in a relationship, two individuals, hoping that they will develop into something healthy, functional, something beneficial for both of them, are going to sit back and be like, "Why more she will love me more or him?" Like, why is that so? I don't know. Why is that even a topic? The reality is, like, you will have couples who say, this man seemingly is more interested, or was more interested, or even they're more romantic, for example. That is totally fine. I see nothing wrong with that. But it gets to a point when you really have to say to persons, do people really want love, or do they just want attention? Do they just want someone to rally behind them, ensure that things are done, ensure that there's a trophy on their arm, ensure that they can give to them the weekly spendings, are people. Well, no, in all honesty, not saying that love has died. I mean, perspectives have changed, society has changed, morals are declining. So of course, there's many people nowadays, when you look at them, you have to really and truly ask yourself, especially in relationships, like, what? Like, ew, like, that's crazy. Like, there are just some questionable moments happening now, even in so-called relationships. So of course, things have changed, but it's just a way to say to people that before you dive into something, really ask yourself, like, am I settling for less? Can I really and truly, like, will I be fulfilled? Well, I don't even want to say will I be fulfilled, because one thing that I've learned, and I've heard many people say, and I'm not a married woman, and this is not me offering unsolicited advice per se, but from a singles perspective, they always say, do not rush into things. Don't ever be the type of person who, no, from us. Oh, yeah. So, from a singles perspective, from the things that we've seen, like, you never know what's going to happen. You can start off in a good, bouncing, healthy, like joyful, God centered relationship, and then a few years down the line, it crashes. And many times, people will share their stories and their experiences, and you're like, oh, I thought you two were meant to be together. Like, how did this happen? How did you even get to this stumbling block? You understand? And then in the same breath, you'll have someone who's like 38, and they tell you that, or somebody who was 38, and they tell you that that was the time that they found the love of their life, and 10 years down the line, 12 years down the line, even 20, they realized that this person was truly worth waiting for. And it's not to say that everybody's timeline is going to be the same, but I just truly believe that in everything that we do, even in love, we should really introspect ourselves. Like, We have to have an open mind, I believe, just as how with so many other things in life, anything can happen. In love, anything can happen. It's best that we really and truly approach things with the best intentions, meaning that you're intentionally seeking to get to know someone, you're intentionally waiting, but essentially we have to remember that we're all humans, we're all fallible. So who is worth waiting for, or who is worth faking it for? That was a joke because it's crazy, but it's the truth. Because so many times when persons say, "Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna do it because everybody's telling me to do it," like you start to realize your feelings have faded, like you're no longer interested. So there are so many factors, and I always tell myself, like as a single, like, and even with my own experiences, it is so important that you really and truly learn how to meet yourself. Like, meet yourself first and foremost. So when it is that you meet someone, you'll know who is meshing with you, or more so who will never. Like, there are just some people who have some deal breakers. And that's another thing. It's important that you set deal breakers in every single aspect. As a single, as even somebody who's looking forward to marriage, like, what won't you tolerate? And I feel like the more you spend time with yourself and you learn yourself and you realize how far you've come by yourself, you won't be so easy to just compromise and be like, yes, he's 6 feet tall with a Benz, but he has six baby mothers. Like, no. And this is not a shame to people. This is not a shade to people who have had past relationships, or who have really and truly decided to turn their lives around. But the reality is, a man with six baby mothers is not for everyone, vice versa. Like, not every woman is going to be like, okay, I'm getting older and you seem to have it all. It's just that you had a notorious past. I'm going to give you a shot. No, it doesn't work like that. So with that being said, ask yourself, do you really want love, or do you just want some attention? Someone to hold the shopping bags. Ask yourself that. And until next time, I'll see you. And remember, this is the Whole Woman Podcast, where we address the matters of the mind, body, and soul so that we can bloom and learn to become whole and beautiful and stay forever young.